Oh, it is kind of, you plug in, I think they're the best things ever. And it stays charged for like, you'll jump the hour like 32.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the October 17th, 2022 Crest Hill City Council meeting to order at 7 p.m. If everyone will please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Grace Solomon.
Here.
Glenn Conklin.
Present.
Scott Dyke.
Here.
John Rashay.
Here.
Darrell Jefferson.
Here.
Claudia Gazal.
Here.
Tina Oberlin.
Present.
Mark Sepiti.
Here.
Nate Albert.
Here.
Joe Kubal.
Okay, I received a message from Joe Kubal today. He is unable to be here this evening, so he is excused for this meeting. We do not have a business promotion this evening, but we'll have one a little bit later in this agenda. So moving on, we are looking for the approval of the minutes of the October 3rd, 2022 Crest Hill City Council meeting. Motion would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderwoman Gazal, seconded by Alderman Jefferson, for the approval of the minutes of the City Council meeting held on October 3rd, 2022. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Scott Dyke.
Yes.
John Rashay.
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our city attorney, Mike Stiff. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I do not have any agenda items this evening. Of course, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of city attorney? All right, thanks, Mike. Our city administrator, Jim Marino. Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have two items for you tonight. The first one is approval of a professional services consulting agreement with Lakeside Consultant for plan review and building inspection services. Back in July, when the building commissioner resigned, we had to bring on Lakeside Consultants to conduct building permit plan reviews and also building inspections. We're still in the process of trying to recruit for that vacancy. So until the time we fill the vacancy, we are going to continue to need to continue to use Lakeside Consultants to do those services. Staff is in the process of putting together a RFP to send out to other companies that provide these services, so we can select another company in the instance where we might need to use a company on a long-term basis, or as I would recommend, even after we fill the building commissioner position, we should still have a company engaged to assist the building commissioner if there's a high volume of work or as a backup. So before you tonight, as we discussed at the work session last week, is the professional services agreement with Lakeside Consultants.
Motion would be in order.
So move. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Albert, seconded by Alderman Jefferson, for the approval of a professional services consulting agreement with Lakeside Consultants for plan review and building inspection services. This was discussed at last Monday night's work session also. Questions or comments in regards to the motion?
I appreciate your response on the not billing, but did we inquire as to why the call was never returned?
No, I didn't.
Can we maybe find that out?
Sure.
Thanks.
Roll call, please.
John Rashay.
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
And Scott Dyke.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, the other item I have for you is approval of an ordinance to supplement the appropriations ordinance for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2022 and ending in April 30th, 2023 for cost of the city center building construction work. As discussed at the last work session, there are additional items that need to be done at the city center. Items that were discovered that as we went through the process, but an additional reason for this cost is increased cost for items, supplies, in particular, increase in cost for asphalt, because the final course of asphalt still needs to be put in place, and the cost for that has gone up considerably. There's some other items that need to be done, and that's included in the list that was attached to your memo. The amount that's being recommended by Harbor Contractors is $750,000. They are estimating this on the high end because all the costs are not yet finalized, and there's still some items that may crop up in the next few months that we're not aware of that we need to account for. So because this cost was not known at the time the budget was approved, it was not included in the budget, therefore now the council has to approve a supplemental ordinance amending that appropriation to add an additional $750,000.
This was discussed last Monday night at the work session. Also, I'd ask for a motion.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Albert, seconded by Alderwoman Gazal for the approval of an ordinance supplementing the appropriations ordinance for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2022 and ending April 30th, 2023 for the city of Crest Hill, Will County, Illinois. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Darrell Jefferson,
Yes.
Claudia Gazal,
Yes.
Tina Oberlin,
Yes.
Mark Sepiti,
Yes.
Nate Albert,
Yes.
Scott Dyke,
Yes.
John Verche.
Yes.
Motion carries ordinance 1929.
That's all I have.
Okay, any questions of city administrator?
Yeah, Jim, I handed out for everyone's information tonight. Back in July, you gave me information on rental property. And going through past packets of homes that weren't registered and what the ones that were registered, I found 67 homes that are still not registered. So I was just wondering, some of these also went to hearing, and they're still not compliant, or still not registered, so a lot of these are, you know, a good year or more older. So I just was wondering if we could have a work session to discuss this, to find out how we can get things that aren't compliant, you know, for them to recheck or to go back over, and, because otherwise, you know, that's just this, and that's just my Ward 67. That doesn't include Ward 2, 3, or 4. So who knows what other things are falling through the cracks and not getting checked and sent back, or, you know, get the people compliant. You know, we had back when Steve was here, and I had asked Steve to give us a framework for code enforcement process. I think we all got a copy of that, but, you know, somehow this stuff's falling between the cracks and not getting noticed or getting done or accomplished. So I want to find out how we can work to get this a better system or something.
Well, the solution is to hire a community and economic development director and a building commissioner and more building inspectors,
Well-
and that's what we're working on right now.
Back when we did have them, this happened.
I can't help what happened in the past. All I
You
can
know,
do is
well, I'm
work on
just
what's
saying.
going on today.
Granted, we changed someone who's in charge of the department. Unfortunately, that person left. But still, all the other ones, this is stuff that keeps happening, you know? So we need to do something to change what's going on in the office or
We
with
will,
the
once we-
people who are on the street. You know, I know we lost, you know, the building inspector. We lost one of the guys that was, you know, another guy, you know, the main guy for the building department. But, you know, still, this stuff happened when they were still here. So
Well, once we-
hopefully, I know you want to say going forward, but I keep hearing that. You know, going forward, you know, when we get new people. And I just want to make sure that, you know, something started already. You know, something is in place with those who are still here. Were here then when this happened. So I don't know how everyone else feels, but I think we should maybe have a work session on this.
It's called accountability.
Is everybody in favor of that?
Yeah.
Motion to be on the.
So if we can have a work session on this. All right, thank you.
Does Crest Hill have a person that goes around and do code enforcement like some other cities?
Yes, we have an inspector that does that.
Okay. That person's still on the job?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. We probably need a work session. We have some rentals in Ward 2 that I'm not sure if they're.
Actually, we're up to date in Ward 2, but, because we go around and I communicate really well with the building commissioner. And right now, Mark has been handling everything. But if you see anything, just gotta notify him.
I don't know what I'm looking for.
But you just said you've seen things, so,
No, I know of the one on Tahoe Lane. I don't like what I see there, but I'm not sure of the rest of them.
that's
All right,
private.
any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So you mentioned, building, inspector, where we at with that process?
Inspection, or on, sorry,
Building commissioner,
interviews
building
for the building
inspector?
commission.
Yeah.
Yeah, interviews for the building commissioner position are scheduled for next week. We're going to see if those candidates, if they're not qualified for building commissioner, if they might be interested in a building inspector position. And then we'll start recruiting for building inspectors as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up this point. It's something that we need to look into, because in the past, we only had building inspector.
Mhm.
And I think, isn't it, when Kirk, we end up doing commissioner?
Commissioner?
Yeah.
Kirk.
Something that we need to look at.
We are.
Yeah, thank you. One more point, you said about the contract. Have we looked at the cameras placement for the dais, since we changed the look of the dais? Did anyone look at the cameras, how they're gonna be placed? Because they were placed according to the old.
Right, so Harbor has spoken with LVS and AVI are the two companies that are working on that. So they spoke with both of them and asked them to make adjustments based on the new configuration of the dais.
We did, okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Moving on to our Public Works Department, our Public Works Director, Mark Seifert. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have no agenda items for you this evening. The one thing I did want to do is thank staff, council, and the residents for another successful hydrant flushing session. We were able to complete all 1,174 hydrants over the course of 9.5 nights. It's truly amazing what we can get done. So I just want to thank staff, thank especially the staff here at City Hall who answers a majority of the questions that we get during hydrant flushing, and council for getting the information out there as well. With that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Any questions of Public Works? Hats off to the crew that was out there on the midnight shift with the hydrants. Great job. Very, very few phone calls. I didn't have any, so tell them they did a fantastic job.
Thank you. I will.
All right, City Engineer, we have no report. We'll move on to Community Development Department. We have Maura Ragoni here this evening. We have 2 agenda items. I will turn it over to Maura Ragoni for the first one for Hillcrest Shopping Center. Maura?
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Before you this evening is an approval for an ordinance granting a special use permit for the Crest Hill zoning ordinance for a planned unit development and special use for a drive-through for the property commonly known as the Joliet Hillcrest Shopping Center. This was before you on October 10th at a work session. At that time, we reviewed the proposal, which includes a building addition as well as the drive-through as stated. The ordinance included 6 conditions that were placed on by the Plan Commission. An additional condition is outlined in the ordinance before you, and that 7th condition relates to the cost-sharing agreement, finalization of the cost-sharing agreement due to the relocation of the water main with respect to this project. That is outlined in the memo, as well as in the ordinance. The cost-sharing agreement will come back before City Council at a later date, but this is outlined in the ordinance as the approval for a condition.
And Abe Katz is here, owner of the Hillcrest Shopping Center. Abe, if, I will let you make the announcement of the new business that is requesting the drive-through and the location before we open it up for questions from City Council. We had a discussion of this. I went through the Plan Commission. We were here last Monday night at a work session also and worked through everything here also. So, Abe Katz.
Thank you. The new business is Smoothie King, being operated by Mr. Parth Patel, who I think he told me last week he has 11 units. And we're looking forward to doing the infrastructure and having the building built probably next year.
And the Smoothie King will be at the south end of the little strip mall that
That's
has the
correct.
currency exchange
Right by
and Stella's.
and T-Mobile and the currency exchange.
And Stella's.
Right.
Okay. I will open it up for city council of any questions for Mr. Katz or for Maura Ragoni. Okay, thanks, Abe.
Thank you. I just want to say one thing, Dad. I appreciate the cooperation and help of the city and Mark Seaford and Ron, who's not here, and working on agreements on the cost sharing.
Okay, thank you.
I want to thank you for taking care of the signs. You start, like you said earlier, started the process, so I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
You're fast.
And just one more question, Abe. The 6 conditions that are listed, you are in favor of, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
I will ask, and again, this was vetted through the Plan Commission, which was approved by the Plan Commission also. If anyone would like to speak for or against, let me get to my page here. An ordinance granting a special use permit to the Crest Hill zoning ordinance for a planned unit development and a special use for a drive-through with respect to a certain real property application of Joliet Hillcrest Shopping Center LLC. Please step to the podium, state your name for the record, your address is optional. Second call, if anyone would like to speak for or against an ordinance granting a special use permit to the Crest Hill zoning ordinance for planned unit development and a special use for a drive-through of a Smoothie King with respect to certain real property of the Hillcrest Shopping Center, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, and your address is optional. And third time, if anyone would like to speak for or against an ordinance granting a special use permit to the Crest Hill zoning ordinance for planned unit development and a special use for a drive-through with respect to certain real property, the application of the Hillcrest Shopping Center. Please step to the podium, state your name for the record, your address is optional. Let the record show that no one has approached the podium for comment. So with that, I would ask for
So
a
moved,
motion.
presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderperson Oberlin, seconded by Alderman Sapiti.
Before you vote on that, Mayor, just as a matter of clarification, the ordinance that is in your packet has a legal that I've described as wonky. So the motion would be recommended that it's subject to Maura and I getting together to clean up the legal description. But other than that, the ordinance has been fully vetted and is fine.
To the motioner?
So I will make my motion that the wonky gets dewonked. Thank you, Mark.
Second to the D-Wonk.
Okay.
Can we see those changes, since we're voting on this? Like, what kind of language changing are you making?
It's just the legal description there. If you look at the legal description, it's 2 pages of nothing but abbreviations. So we're fixing that. Maura's, Robinson has supposedly got a clearer legal.
Yeah, so the legal that was, as Attorney Stiff mentioned, that the legal that was in there, that was part of the packet, is a lot of abbreviations, and it's not the typical legal that we've seen. We did have copies, we found a copy, original legal for the property back in
It's 20, 30 years old.
20, 30 years old, still describing it. However, we do not have it electronically, and it's a pretty lengthy legal, so we just want to make sure that we do have the correct, so I'll go ahead and compare back to back. So it's not anything other than, I believe it's Exhibit A.
It's Exhibit A to the
of
ordinance.
Of the ordinance. It's just to make sure that it's all clean and concise.
It's
Okay.
at page 72 of, if your packet is the same as mine, which is what I just pulled up from the city website, it's pages 72 and 73 of the packet.
Okay, and the motion does include these 6 conditions that are attached in your packet, correct?
Yes, it does.
Okay, any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Claudia Gazal,
Yes, I found it, thank you.
Tina Oberlin,
Yes.
Mark Sepiti,
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Scott Dyke.
Yes.
John Rashay.
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Motion carries, ordinance 1930.
Okay. Thanks, Abe. Congratulations.
I,
Okay, next on the agenda, actually, there is 2 on the agenda, so I will turn it over to Maura Ragoni. This was discussed at the work session last Monday night also. Maura?
Correct. Before you is an ordinance to approve the amending the zoning ordinance for Section 2 definitions, Section 8.2 special use permit regulations, and Table 4, the index of permitted and special uses to the City of Crest Hill zoning ordinance. The revisions that are proposed before you are text amendments that are relating to modifications to the ordinance to have special use for adult use cannabis in the B2, B3, M1, and M2 district with specific regulations as outlined in Section 8.2. As noted that this was discussed at the October 10th City Council work session. It was also previously discussed and initiated to have staff begin reviewing of July 11th of 2022. Before you is the ordinance which outlines the revisions for this. If there's any questions, I can go ahead and answer.
Any questions of Maura in regards to the request for approval?
And a question more regarding the restrictions on locations. If this could be, that would allow this use, does that lend itself to many locations in the city, once all those restrictions are looked at?
Yes, and when in looking at those, it kind of highlights the main commercial corridors that we have to ensure that we're protecting, further away from the residents, as well as on some of the other institutions. Yes, working with previous staff, we did some analysis based on the different rings that we had with different mileage and square footage. Distance based on footage.
And
Primarily Weber Road, or?
Primarily pockets of Weber Road, and as well as then Weber Road, as well as then Larkin and Plainfield Road, the intersection there as well. And this right further down here where they all kind of meet together. Some of the areas, because of the proximity to residential, kind of make it a little bit more difficult to have in there, but those are also smaller lots that probably wouldn't have the ability to have the parking and so forth that would be required for it as well.
Thank you.
Or are these restrictions similar to other municipalities?
Yes, and so when we did an ordinance and working with previous staff is that we collected as many that we could possibly think and went through in those that we found that were tailored to Crest Hill's needs, as well as then kind of expanding on them, as a lot of these were written years ago to see, as I had mentioned, a lot had specifics about security, but we went ahead and just made that blanket of working with the police to ensure that they were.
Great, thanks.
And the Plan Commission did deny this, correct?
Correct, the Plan Commission did deny this. Their motion was to deny the text amendment as proposed.
And to the city attorney, is there 3/4?
No.
No?
Simple majority.
Simple majority. Okay. And just for some clarification, we voted against cannabis sales in the city of Crest Hill a few years ago.
2019, I believe.
And at that point in time, there was a lot of unsurety, I guess, from a lot of the communities in regards to police activity and security and everything else. And I think that has proven to be false by the communities that do have cannabis sales in their communities. It's been very limited. It's been very safe from a police standpoint as far as security goes. And I know there's security, it's in the buildings and a lot of cameras and everything else. So I would ask if council has any other further questions of Maura in regards to this ordinance.
I'd like to ask Mike a question. See, we're changing this here now to let them in, so if this doesn't go over, so they have problems over there, how much of trouble is it gonna be to shut that place down?
Well, it depends on what the trouble is. So if they are violating the ordinances, then there is probably a mechanism by which you can revoke a business license. But once a special use is granted, they've got to comply with ordinances, but once the special use is granted, they can use it for that purpose. But they've got to comply with all the other zoning ordinances and municipal code ordinances. So it really depends on what the trouble is as to what you can do. I mean, obviously, we got repeat, like, police activity. That's something that you're going to have to take a look at and, rectify in some fashion. I mean, you're going to have to cite them, try to get them into compliance. If they refuse, then there are other measures that I presume you could do to involve the courts probably.
It would take us 2-3 years to close it down, though, would it?
I couldn't look into my crystal ball. I mean, obviously, if you get into court situations, it's always possible because, as you know and I know,
Yeah,
the
a
wheels
little
of
slow.
justice move quite slowly.
Okay, thanks.
But
But, I
that
mean,
will
if
be a
there's-
state problem?
I'm sorry?
Will that be a state problem since it's
Well, they also have to comply with
correct?
the state. I mean, obviously, if they're violating your ordinances, they're probably violating the state licensure. And obviously, my first thing before I would start spending the city's money chasing them down is my first phone call would be to the state saying, is there something you can do on the state level to either pull their ticket or enforce their ordinance or their code?
Okay.
Okay, since this went through the Plan Commission, I will ask if anyone would like to speak for or against an ordinance amending Section 2.0 definitions, Section 8.2 special and permit use regulations, and Table 4 index of permitted and special uses of the City of Crest Hill zoning ordinance. Please step to the podium, state your name for the record, address is optional. Second request, if anyone would like to speak for or against an ordinance amending Sections 2.0 definitions, Section 8.2 special and permit use regulations, and Table 4 index of permitted and special uses of the City of Crest Hill zoning ordinance, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, address is optional. And a third time, if anyone would like to speak for or against an ordinance amending Sections 2.0 definitions, Section 8.2 special and permit use regulations, and Table 4 index of permitted and special uses of the City of Crest Hill zoning ordinance, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, address is optional. Let the record show that no one has approached the podium. I would ask for a motion for an approval by the City Council.
Do we word it that way, or do we word it to, how do we phrase it since the Plan Commission voted it down? To make a motion to,
Motion is to approve this ordinance amending the zoning code and to reject the Plan Commission's recommendation against.
so moved as stated by City Attorney.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Oberlin, seconded by Alderman Albert. Questions or comments of the motion? Roll call.
Mark Sepiti?
Yes.
I'm sorry, hold on a second. Nate Albert?
Yes.
Scott Dyke?
Yes.
John Rashay?
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson?
Yes.
Claudia Gazal?
Yes.
And Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Motion carries ordinance 1931.
Okay. Next on the agenda, Maura.
Next on the agenda is approval ordinance amending Chapter 5.76 Cannabis Business Establishments Prohibited of Title V of the Business License and Regulations of the City of Crest Hill Code of Ordinances. This ordinance portion of the city code establishes those businesses, cannabis businesses that are prohibited, as to not have a conflict between that and the ordinance that was just passed. This amendment would remove the adult use cannabis dispensing organizations from the prohibited list and modify it, but still prohibiting other establishments such as craft growers, adult cultivation, infusers, processing, and transportation. This also does not change anything to do with medical cultivation. That still stays the same. So this is just ensuring that there's no conflict with what you were just approved and what is currently on your city code.
And this vote this evening would not mean that we are guaranteed that we would get a dispensary. We would just be we would be open if somebody would like to open a dispensary in the city of Crest Hill and meet all the requirements that we will place on them. And the
Correct.
state will place on them.
Correct. When the state releases license, that an individual will be able to, if they're selected. And then now here is the city of Crest Hill does have that as an option as a permitted use through the special use table to come here. They would still have to come through the Plan Commission and City Council to receive final approval. Even just the fact that the state gives them the license, they're still here. They're subject to the state regulations as well as the regulations that we've outlined in the ordinance.
This ordinance was originally your 2019 ordinance that declared all of these businesses a nuisance and prohibited them in anywhere in the city. The medical cannabis use was specifically carved into the zoning code, didn't reference anything other than medical. This now says that all the others are still prohibited and carves out an exception per the zoning code ordinance change that you just passed.
Okay. Any questions or comments of city council? Let me get to the page. A lot of paperwork before us this evening.
Just a quick question, I'm not sure. So let's assume someone wants to open these, they still have to come to the council for approval.
Correct, correct. Because it is a special use, it has to follow any special use process. Just like a
No matter
planned
what.
unit development or drive-through, they would have to come before the plan commission, hold a public hearing. They would have to meet all of the requirements that we have here. First, if someone comes for an application, our first initial is to say, can it be where they want it, based on the distances that we have? And then we outline all the regulations, vet them through the police, vet them through all the other requirements before bringing them before the plan commission, who then is a recommending body to the city council.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone in the audience would like to speak for or against an ordinance amending Chapter 5.76, Cannabis Business Establishments Prohibited of Title 5, Business Licenses and Regulations of the City of Crest Hill Code of Ordinances? Please step to the podium, state your name for the record. Your address is optional. Second request, if anyone would like to speak for or against an ordinance amending Chapter 5.76, Cannabis Business Establishments Prohibited of Title 5, Business Licenses and Regulations of the City of Crest Hill Code of Ordinances, please step to the podium, state your name for the record. Address is optional. Third call, if anyone would like to speak for or against an ordinance amending Chapter 5.76, Cannabis Business Establishments Prohibited of Title 5 Business Licenses and Regulations of the City of Crest Hill Code of Ordinances, please step to the podium, state your name for the record. Your address is optional. Let the record show that no one has approached the podium. The Plan Commission did deny this one also?
No.
No? No? Okay, my fault.
This did not go through the plan
Second.
commission.
All right, we have a motion by Alderman Albert, seconded by Alderperson Oberlin, for an ordinance amending Chapter 5.76, Cannabis Business Establishments Prohibited of Title 5 Business Licenses and Regulations, the City of Crest Hill Code of Ordinances. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Scott Dyke?
Yes.
John Verche?
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson?
Yes.
Claudia Gazal?
Yes.
Ken Oberlin?
Yes.
Mark Sepiti?
Yes.
Nate Albert?
Yes.
Motion carries ordinance 1932.
Thank you, Maura, for all your hard work on this.
Okay, thank you, Maura.
61, baby.
Moving on. New business. We have no new business, anyone? That's not a place. But, Police Department, we have Deputy Chief Jason Opiola with us this evening. Good evening, Jason.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. There's one item on your agenda. It's for a special event police services contract with the Caroline Lakes Homeowners Association. There's a memo in your packet as well as the contract itself. The Crest Hill Police Department is requesting the City Council to waive the insurance requirement. It's item 4, Exhibit A in the contract. In the past, we have done this. We've waived the insurance requirement for them. We will have one officer during their trick-or-treat hours on October 23rd.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Albert, seconded by Alderwoman Gazal for the approval and the waiver of insurance requirements for special events police services contact with Caroline Lakes. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Ken Oberlin?
Yes.
Mark Sepiti?
Yes.
Nate Albert?
Yes.
Scott Dyke?
Yes.
John Verche?
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson?
Yes.
Claudia Gazal?
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you.
And then for Halloween, last year we were handing out glow sticks for the children. We'll be doing that again this year. Sounds like that was well received by the kids. It gives them a way to kind of see the kids when it starts to get at night. We will hire additional officers for Halloween trick-or-treat hours as well.
And that will be 4 to 7.
4 to 7.
4 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Monday, October 31st. So we ask all of the drivers to be cognizant of the trick-or-treaters that are out and about, and hopefully they wear some bright colors. Also, it will stay a little bit darker here until about 6 o'clock, so hope everybody's safe, and again, we will have extra police officers out there, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, any questions of Police Department? Okay, thanks, Jason. Moving on to the mayor's report. We have one agenda item. It's approval of the road closure for the Cheney-Manji Halloween Parade, which will be on Monday, October 31st at 1 p.m. It'll be through the neighborhoods. It lasts about 20 to 30 minutes. They've been doing this for many, many years. I would ask for an approval. You do have information in your packet for the route, which is around a couple blocks of the school. Would be asking for the assistance of Public Works Department to block off the streets as the young children are walking through the neighborhood, and also for the police department to help out with some of the security for the short parade.
So moved.
We have a motion by Alderman Dyke, seconded by Alderman Verche. Questions or comments of the motion? Roll call, please.
Nate Albert,
Yes.
Scott Dyke,
Yes.
John Rashay.
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yep.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, I will be in contact with Superintendent Andy Siegfried tomorrow and let him know. That is all the agenda items for the mayor. Just a couple of announcements. This Friday, October 21st, we will be having a cleanup of our Veterans and Police Memorial Garden at 9 a.m. It is strictly on a volunteer basis, and we're looking for all the assistance that we can get. Any of the additional help that we can get on that day would be greatly appreciated. Again, so it's going to be this Friday, October 21st at 9 a.m., and we'll be cutting down the daylilies, and very soon the stones with almost 1,200 names are going to be moved to New City Hall also. They are working on the Memorial Garden at New City Hall as we speak. So hopefully that will be within the next couple weeks there also. The only other thing I have is that we had a grand opening ribbon cutting at Morisco's El Puerto on Renwick Road last Friday. Alderman Verche was there, Alderwoman Gazal, Treasurer Conklin. Did I miss anybody? No. So I would say that Carla Cardenas was a very nice host for the ribbon cutting, and the food was fantastic. So if you like to try a new restaurant in the city of Crest Hill, it was very good. Located on Renwick Road in the strip mall, just east of Weber Road. That's it for the mayor. If there's any questions, I'll try to entertain them.
Yes, Mayor. I was wondering, we've had in the past where Brent Hassard comes here, the consulting service, for him to come before us and to speak and to let us know what he's been working on for the city and that.
Yeah. Brent's struggling with some health issues right now, Scott. So I'd like to hold off on that for a little bit until he gets a little bit better and a little bit more strength maybe. So we can certainly reach out to him. We do talk with him on the phone. He's having a little difficulty speaking also. So as soon as he's feeling a little better, we'll get him. Fair enough?
Fair enough, thank you.
Okay.
I agree with what Scott said, but we're still paying him?
Yeah, he's doing work from home
Oh, he
for
is?
us, yes. So, okay, moving on. City Clerk's report, our City Clerk, Christine Verche Hall. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, and I have nothing to report tonight.
Any questions of City Clerk? Okay, City Treasurer's report, our Treasurer, Glenn Conklin. Good evening, Glenn.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I've got one item on the agenda. I request approval for our list of bills through October 18th, 2022, in the amount of $827,113.87.
So moved as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderperson Oberlin, seconded by Alderman Jefferson for the approval of the list of bills. Questions or comments? Roll call.
John Rashay.
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
And Scott Dyke.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Informationally, our payroll for regular overtime for the same period totaled $235,678.09. That's all I have for tonight.
Any questions of the treasurer? All right, thanks, Glenn. Unfinished business. Anybody? Committee liaison reports, anyone? City council comments, positive city council comments, anything you'd like to share with the viewing public? Alderman Dyke?
Just want to wish all the children of our community and their families a happy and safe Halloween.
Alderman Verche?
I'll go out with the comment there, I know you're saying it again.
Alderman Jefferson?
Nothing at this time.
Alderwoman Gazal?
Just want to remind everyone that October is Breast Cancer Awareness. I lost my mom because of that awful cancer. Just don't forget to go out and get a mammogram. That's for men as well. So, and I also want to mention this will be the last announcement for our Kids Pop Pantry. That will be held Saturday, November 25th from 10 to 12 p.m. at the White Oak Library. And this collaboration with our city, Calvary Church, and hope to see everyone there. And thank you.
What time is it, Claudia?
From 10 to 12.
On Saturday the what?
Saturday the 5th, and the school already announced it, so if you can spread the word, we appreciate it. The more we can help people, the more. And Chris, you said I can post this on the door, right? Thank you.
Alderperson Overland?
Well, I want to wish everyone a happy and safe Halloween, and hope everybody pays attention for all the little children out there. And stay tuned on Halloween tomorrow morning. We're going to be on there with our other deputy chief.
Yeah, Brian's gonna do that.
Yeah, on WJOL with some Halloween tips, so everybody tune in.
Alderman Sapiti?
Yes, I'd like to announce a fundraising event that is taking place tomorrow, and it is benefiting the Richland Schools Courtyard Committee. The event is tomorrow from 4 to 8 p.m. at the Chipotle on Plainfield Road by the mall. 33% of all of your purchase is donated to the Richland Courtyard Committee. So come out, please do your best to come on out and support this benefit. Thank you.
Do they have to say they're there for that reason to get it?
Yes, mention that you're there for the Richland Courtyard Committee for that benefit to be recognized.
Alderman Albert?
Just a reminder that the Crest Lions Club will be out with the Halloweeny roast, like in years past at the 3 locations. So during the 3 hours from 4 to 7, they'll be set up at the at Cheney Manji School, the Richland Center, and Remington Park on Boreal Drive. So come on out and get a hot dog while you're trick-or-treating. And my youngest son is dressing up as a police officer, so hopefully he'll run into one of you guys.
All right, public comment. Anyone like to address city council, please step to the podium, state your name for the record. Address is optional. Linda?
I'm there. I won't go through all of them, I'll hand them to the attorney. But I want to say that that house with the vines, I've looked at that house and the neighbors have looked at that house for years. If it took me to set a fire to get some things done in this town, I gotta tell you, take a ride by that house. They had ladders out there, the vines are down, you can see the front door, there's bushes at the curb, the cars are cleaned up. So I'm gonna keep on going. I've been here since I was a baby, and so is a lot of these other people. We live here, we're proud of the town, and we're gonna take our town back. We're not gonna let this happen. If we hire employees that don't live here, all we are is a paycheck to them. I live here, I care about my town, and I've stayed back for a long time. And I know a lot of these Scott has reported. I just want to know what happens when these houses are given notification. What happens if they don't comply? It just goes away? Who follows up on these things?
Well, the building department follows up on that.
And of course, we don't have anybody, right?
We do. We have a
And this
limited
little
staff, but we
CSO
do
guy, boy,
have.
he's out every morning in my neighborhood.
Who?
The CSO for the police department?
And so is the building
He
inspector
said to
that we
me,
have.
ma'am, you got me busy. I said, yes, I do, and I ain't done yet.
And
You know.
I agree with you, the people that you're talking about with the vines, they were out there for 5 straight days last week after they got served the notice. I believe it was on
But why
Tuesday
did
or
it take
Wednesday.
me to come here to do this?
I called Kirk on that, Ray, for the last I don't know how
He's
many
got
years.
listed, listed,
And
homie.
Ray-
I
and he
compared
told
my
me
list to
he
his
is
list.
looking
It's been
into
there
it
for years.
and sending
This
his
is
guys
not-
over
This
there.
is nothing new.
And that's what I'm saying, this is nothing new.
This is nothing new, and every time we get new
That's why I
people,
asked
it's,
for
we're
this
gonna
work
take care of
session.
this, and boom, there it goes, out the window. Well, I'm not going no place.
Okay, if I could finish what I was saying.
Sure, go ahead.
I would give that homeowner, him and his father, much credit to the work they've done. I know that they are not
Oh,
done
they
yet.
were busy out there. They had the ladder going. I was brought them something to drink. I was so proud of them. I was like, hallelujah, praise God. I mean, they were working. But why so long? You
If I
know.
can, if I could please finish.
Go ahead.
Not only them, several of the other ones that were brought to our attention, they have been cooperating too. It's not gonna happen overnight, it's gonna take some time. A lot of them were already in the system, a lot of them needed to be before the administrative hearing officer this month. A lot of them were cited earlier that have not made it to the administrative hearing process. It is a process, it doesn't happen at a snap of a finger.
But years, Ray? Years? We're not talking a couple of weeks. No, we're talking years. So you can sit there and tell me, yep, they got this done and they got, but it's been years.
The system is not perfect. If you want to blame me, blame me. But
I'm not blaming
the
you,
point
I'm
is,
blaming departments that are supposed to be taking care of these kinds of things. And you're the mayor, get on them, what's going on, take a ride.
the point is they're being addressed now. If
Okay.
that does not satisfy you, I apologize.
No, it satisfies
It's
me, I'm
not
seeing
fast
progress,
enough
and I'm
for you.
tickled pink. That TV is gone from my corner that I've looked at forever and a year, and so is the chair. I was like, oh my God. I've had people calling me.
Okay, thanks for your comments.
I questioned that thing many times too, Ray, so that's nothing new. You know, I don't know how many times Scott did, but I questioned it many times, but how come nothing's ever been done with it? We're working on it, that's all I got, you know.
But I just got a couple more things. Now, I took a ride, I had to go to St. Ambrose to drop the priest off, and I pull out and I see a pool. Now, we're talking, it's October, I don't think these people are swimming. So all summer, this was like this, and nobody's seen it. This is what I'm talking about. And yesterday, going to church, there's a car. Now, I believe this is against our ordinance. A car parked over, it was there for almost 9 hours yesterday. How could I FOIA to see if this car got a ticket? I'm curious. Because I think that's against the ordinance. Boy, if I parked my car in my front yard, boy, I'd be having one rode out tomorrow. You know, it's frustrating, you know? And you know, we keep thanking everybody for the job they're doing, but that's their job. When my boss thanks me, I'm like, don't thank me, I get paid for that. So, see you next time for the next meeting.
Okay, anybody else like to address city council, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, address is optional. All right, to our city attorney, Mike, is there a need for an executive session?
There is not.
Motion to adjourn, Mayor.
We have motion for an adjournment by Alderman Dyke, seconded by Alderman Jefferson. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Chamberlain.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Scott Dyke.
Yes.
John Rashay. Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you.
Meeting is adjourned at 7:59 PM. Thank you and good evening.